At the beginning of the story, an executioner named Dallas Ultio is shown. The name Ultio itself means revenge. Here, Dallas is driving with Iris, who is his best friend. It is known that Dallas is avoiding the pursuit of the motorcycle gang alliance he just slaughtered. Dallas is known as the most brutal and indiscriminate killer and executioner when slaughtering enemies. However, so far no one knows who sent Dallas to brutalize. What is clear is that Dallas's boss is a mobster who likes to play quietly. 2 days ago, Dallas went to the motorcycle gang base alone. In this place, he was sent to destroy their business. However, he also intends to save the women who are being illegal traded there. In addition, he also wanted to destroy the gang's drug business. What's more, this motorcycle gang is also working with a sizable drug cartel. Upon arrival, he immediately finished off all the guards with just a helmet. Dallas then freed the women who were locked up. Unfortunately, some of the women had died from too much torture. After that, Dallas entered the drug factory, and without saying much, he immediately burned the factory, along with the gangsters who were making illegal stuff. Unfortunately, Dallas was caught when gangster reinforcements arrived. Apparently, this motorcycle gang leader asked for help from his alliance. And again, it turns out that the alliance is a long-hair man gangster who is known as a liaison between motorcycle gangs and drug cartels. This gangster is named Lars. In short, Dallas was tortured to tell who had sent him. However, Dallas laughed. It turns out that he let himself to be arrested so he could finish them all off without a trace. And sure enough, in seconds he could break free and finish them off. Again, Dallas finished them all with just a helmet. On the other hand, there is a corrupt cop named Detective Moore, who finds a dead body near the motorcycle gang's place. It turns out that the corpse is a policeman too. Moore then contacted his colleague, U.S. Marshal Antano, to provide information about the death of the policeman. Antano rushed to investigate. Then, Antano contacted an informant named Patrick Tanner. Patrick is a corrupt Special Forces officer who works with Lars. In addition, Patrick is also looking for Dallas at the request of Lars. Patrick said that the dead policeman might have something to do with the massacre committed by Dallas, and if Antano wants to catch him, then he really has to be strong. That's because Dallas is a very strong and brutal person. At the same time, Dallas was at a secluded motel. He wanted to book a room to rest with Iris. But when Dallas was in the lobby, suddenly there was a hobo who extorted Iris. Seeing that, Dallas immediately put his gun to the hobo's head. Here Dallas actually really wanted to kill him, but he felt sorry. And finally he gave some money, then told the hobo to leave. Afterward, Dallas bring Iris to her room. Because of the cold weather and the favorable situation, Iris also invited Dallas to make out. However, Dallas refused and he chose to leave. When Dallas had left, Iris secretly met a blind mobster named Blue. He is Dallas' boss and mentor. Although blind, Blue has very strong instincts. As proof, the blind Blue was able to make Dallas to become a very brutal killer. He made him since Dallas, the executioner, was a teenager and had just gotten out of juvenile prison. Over time, Dallas grew into a horrific killer. Here, Iris meets Blue to discuss the last mission carried out by Dallas. However, Blue discussed something different and unclear. Then, at the end of the conversation, he promised that if Iris needed his help, he would definitely come. Antano, on the other hand, was at the crime scene where his police colleague was found. But when he gets out of the car, suddenly a mysterious figure comes from a distance. The mysterious figure turns out to be Moore. He then received a call from his superior, who seemed to be from the FBI. His superior told him to injure Antano and not kill him. Therefore, he shot Antano in a non-vital part. Meanwhile, on the way, Dallas gets a call from Blue. His mentor was a little disappointed that Dallas' massacre was too obvious, so his cover was beginning to be blown by the cartels and corrupt cops. Therefore, Dallas must be careful. Here, it is also revealed that Dallas' ex-girlfriend, Trish, has suddenly disappeared. Dallas begins to think that she was kidnapped by the cartel. At the same time, Trish is getting a tattoo on her hand while waiting for Dallas to return. But in the motel lobby, there is a corrupt cop who asks Dallas to the guard. After getting the information, the corrupt police immediately shot the guard to death. A moment later, the superior of the police came to the motel, and it turned out that his superior was Moore. Moore also brought his men to capture Dallas alive. The corrupt cop asked Moore what he should do after that. Instead of answering, Moore killed the corrupt cop. Moore then mobilized the other men to look for Dallas inside the motel. But what they found was an old man with a beard who was taking a shower. Not long after, Dallas appeared from behind and challenged all of Moore's men to a fight. The fight was very easy for Dallas. In a short time, Dallas was able to finish them all. On the other hand, Trish also managed to restrain Moore by putting a gun to his head. But unfortunately, the corrupt police officer can turn the situation around and shoot Trish to death. Seeing that, Dallas immediately beat the corrupt police officer unconscious. When the night was late, Dallas buried Trish's body on a hill. He also took Moore and tied him up near the junkyard. He then interrogated him to find out who sent this corrupt cop. Terrified, Moore replied that he was sent by Lars. The mobster turned out to be very powerful, as he could control high-ranking police officers like Moore. After finding out, Dallas burned Moore alive to reduce the population of corrupt police. He then rushed to find Lars, the skinny gangster version of John Wick. But on the way, Dallas suddenly remembered his childhood, where his father was killed by a motorcycle gang member with a helmet. Now from here we know that Dallas does have a grudge against the motorcycle gang, and it just so happens that Lars has a close relationship with the motorcycle gang Dallas has slaughtered. Therefore, Dallas immediately contacted Blue and asked for his help to find Lars' place. On the other hand, Antano has just woken up from his stupor. In a fairly severe condition, fortunately, he can still get up. The next day, Lars came to Patrick at a restaurant. He wanted to talk about Dallas, which was getting worse. But in the middle of the conversation, Antano suddenly called Patrick and said that he needed reinforcements. Here, Patrick looks angry because he feels disturbed, especially since the call comes from a police officer who does not cooperate with him. Lars the gangster immediately stabbed Patrick's hand with a knife. Lars considers that Patrick has played two sides, aka taking sides with two opposing parties. Meanwhile, Dallas has just received a video from Lars. In the video, there is a former lover who is none other than Iris. The woman was seen being strangled and raped by Lars, and of course, seeing the video made Dallas very angry and wanted to kill Lars right then and there. But on the other hand, it turned out that the video was just a charade. I was forced to do it because her only daughter was held hostage by Lars. So, like it or not, she had to follow what Lars ordered. In addition, she was also told to wear sexy clothes, as if she was Lars' wife. Lars' goal was to get Dallas to come to his headquarters, and if Dallas is provoked, then he will free Iris and her daughter as planned by Lars. Dallas went to a place to get a weapon. He went there by taking an online taxi, but unexpectedly, the driver had dealt with Lars. In fact, he lost one of his hands because of problems with the gangster. Upon arriving at his destination, Dallas was surprised that Patrick was there. Apparently, the taxi driver deliberately contacted the gangster after he was trapped Dallas because reward of money by Patrick. Then Patrick called several of Lars' men to finish off Dallas, but before taking action, one of them killed the taxi driver to eliminate traces. Seeing that, Dallas was immediately brutalized and finished off all the gangsters. But when Dallas was being brutalized, suddenly Patrick hit his head from behind. As a result, Dallas fainted instantly. Patrick then took him to Lars' place, and a moment later, Antano called Lars again. He requested that Patrick hand over Dallas when it was complete. But since Patrick didn't want to be punished by Lars again, he chose to ignore Antano. As a Special Forces officer, Patrick knew that Antano must be tracking his location over the phone. Not long after Patrick arrived at Lars' place, he handed Dallas over at that moment. Moments later, Dallas woke up from his stupor with a gun in front of his eyes. Then came the voice of Lars speaking through the speakers. Here, the gangster asked, who sent Dallas to finish off the motorcycle gang members. Dallas then replied that he always worked alone. Not satisfied with that answer, Lars then told Dallas to kill Patrick, who was tied up and in front of him. However, Dallas refused because the man was not Patrick. And sure enough, after his headgear was removed, the man was indeed not Patrick, but an ordinary person kidnapped by Lars. Dallas then sneaked into Lars' place, trying to find Iris there. However, Dallas was suddenly beaten from behind, knocking him unconscious. A moment later, Dallas woke up in a room with Patrick. Unexpectedly, Patrick was also locked up by Lars. Maybe this is his punishment for siding with both parties at once. Lars then ordered his executioner to interrogate Dallas in the torture chamber. Without saying much, the executioner injected a poisonous liquid into Dallas' body. However, the liquid did not work at all. Therefore, the executioner decided to electrocute Dallas. While electrocuting him, the executioner asked who Dallas' boss was who told him to destroy motorcycle gangs and drug factories. But instead of answering, Dallas asked to be electrocuted again. And after receiving the umpteenth torture, Dallas still did not answer correctly. As a result, the executioner was frustrated and chose to put him in the cage again. In the cage, Patrick suddenly mentioned Iris' name. Suddenly, Dallas was immediately angry because he had never mentioned her name before. In other words, Patrick might still know where Iris was kept. Dallas then pretended to strangle him and made a scene in the cage to provoke the guards to enter the cell, hoping that the guards would separate the two of them. And sure enough, one of the guards opened the cell. Then he separated Dallas and Patrick. Then brutally, Dallas immediately finished off the guard and got out of the cell. Here he was also no choice to work with Patrick, who was an elite troop despite his lack of skill. But at least Patrick can still help him clean up the gangsters. On the other hand, Lars began to worry about seeing Dallas, who was free from his confinement. Iris then said that Dallas could kill Lars whenever he wanted. The man was very brutal, especially when compared to Lars. Furious, Lars immediately mobilized his troops to stop Dallas. But apparently Lars had chosen the wrong opponent, because these gangsters are just walking statues for Dallas who can finish them off very easily. But the problem here is that Patrick looks very useless when finishing off enemies. He is really a burden on the team, even though he is special forces. At the same time, Antano and his partner had found Lars' place. He immediately asked for help from special forces to break in. The goal is to capture all the criminals, including Dallas and Patrick. Back again to Lars' place. This time Dallas must face a pair of twin guards. They both arrogantly challenged Dallas with hand-to-hand duel. Of course, Dallas happily accepted the challenge. In seconds, Dallas was able to finish them both off. This also made Lars even more frightened. Iris also persuaded Lars to give up his daughter, then ran away as soon as possible. What's more, Antano and his troops have arrived at the Lars' place gate. Lars finally followed Dallas' wishes. He then left the place. But not long after, Dallas and Patrick managed to get into Lars' room. Finally, Dallas met Iris in the room. When Dallas and Iris were meeting, suddenly Patrick stabbed Dallas blindly. He stabbed Dallas to vent his disappointment because Lars just left, even though he also intended to take the gangster's money. Seeing that, Iris immediately slashed Patrick's neck. On the other hand, Lars let go of Iris' child and rushed to escape through the back lane. Meanwhile, Dallas was very surprised when he found out that Iris had a teenage daughter. He also asked whether the child was his biological child. Here, Iris didn't answer anything. She kissed Dallas instead. Not long after, Iris' daughter appeared and immediately hugged her mother. Then, Antano and his troops entered to search Lars' place. Unfortunately, the gangster had run away and didn't know where. Antano then secured Iris and her child. He promised Dallas that the police would take good care of them. After that, Dallas also surrendered to Antano because he was badly injured and cornered, but Antano never intended to arrest him. And it turns out that Antano is allied with Dallas' big boss. Let's call him Voner. He is a high-class mobster who has been giving orders to Blue and Dallas. Voner said that Dallas must work with Antano to catch Lars together. At first, Dallas refused because he wanted to work alone. However, Voner managed to convince Dallas that Antano would not give him a hard time. In addition, Voner also says that the killer of Dallas' father is still out there. At the end of the movie, Voner talks to an older mobster. It is unknown who he is. This person suddenly appeared out of nowhere, but he certainly looked very strong. Here even Voner also respects him very much. Here the older mobster says that Voner must be able to control Dallas, because a killer like him cannot turn around and attack him. Voner will also use Iris to make Dallas unstoppable in front of him. However, there was still one unfinished business. Voner was still at a loss as to how to capture Lars, as the mobster would surely interfere with his business again. But the old mobster just smiled, because he had managed to behead Lars. He also deliberately kept it in the refrigerator as a memento. With that scene, the movie ends on a very cliffhanger and confusing.